I guess my point is that it is not what you know that really matters. It's what you do with what you know. Evidently, in the context of Nigeria, everything that happens ends up somehow with Igbo escapism. Igbos are scapegoated. So you know this. Now you know it. What do you do with what you know? And this is the essence of my proposal about the snake paradigm. The idea that what the Igbos need may just be snake intelligence, snake wisdom. Be a lion, that's okay. Be that at home. But you've got to come out. Learn something from the snake. Learn something from the snake. You cannot be a lone lion surrounded by an alliance of equally strong animals and hope that your roar will scare them. This roaring hasn't scared them. It doesn't. They're familiar with it. They know that you will roar. They know that you get angry, but they know how to push your trigger buttons. They push your trauma point, your trauma buttons, and you resort to traumatic responses, patterns of responses that reflect and validate the intergenerational trauma, the reality of the intergenerational trauma that Igbos of today are manifesting. Everything, just take a look. And now let me even make a point about what it means to be a lone lion. Culturally speaking, Igbos in general, Igbos are perhaps the most individualistic society culture in Nigeria. Individualistic thinking culture. They think first as individuals. The rest are collectivists. In that sense, your culture positions you as a lone lion. You see, you're trying to be individualistic in a dominant a society that is dominantly collectivist in nature. A collectivist culture, you will see, they probably have a king. They think as groups first. They have like the emir or the oba or the king who says something and everybody rallies around it. No. So collectivism or collectivist thinking cultures, they succeed more in a regional society, in a regional based government. And that is why this is the dilemma of the Igbo actually. Okay, so we came to Nigeria as regions, not as individuals or states, originally. So now, if you look at all the disruptions that have happened, the dysfunctions have only happened in the southeast. Only the southeast region was broken, was divided. The other regions are intact, and these are the regions that came together to win that war. These regions can be likened to equally strong animals. You can call them tiger, elephant, leopard. They are strong. The lion in the east is also strong. But the problem is that is a single lion confronting an alliance. Okay, so all of these collectivist society thinking cultures, they see this fact that they can't handle the individualism of the Igbo. This idea of thinking for yourself, this republican nature of competition. They think something is wrong with you. They don't, you provoke them. But this is the context in which you found yourself. One of the examples, let me tell you, one of the things that in the snake paradigm that I recommend is that you can act in opposites. Because definitely people stop you just because they can stop you. They stop you because it gives them some sort of ego boost that they stopped you. They're looking for ethnic supremacy. They're not looking for all these things you're looking for. You're looking for like competence. You're looking for, to bring down nepotism. Nepotism thrives in collectivist communities, in collectivist thinking culture than in individualistic thinking cultures. Every Igbo, most Igbos will succeed if they find themselves in a climate that relies on competition, that relies on merit or competence. Because the average Igbo is ready to do the hard work. Not that they are better than anybody else, but I'm just saying culturally, our culture prepares us to think individually, to think differently. We receive diversity. We're open to that. That's the nature of the Igbo, understanding that we can't all see things from the same lens, and it's okay. The dilemma of the post-war Igbo now is that he wants to retain his individualistic thinking culture in being the numerical minority of cultures. I'm not talking individuals, numerical minority of cultures. The dominant majority culture is the collectivist thinking. That's why you have all the other people have kings. Many others have kings, nationalities. The Igbos do have a semblance of kingship, but they don't quite impact. They don't carry the same, if you like, control. They don't have that oligarchical structure. The king is the king, but he's in his house. There's equal representation in Igbo, even in the. So the structure is different, and we've transferred this thing from generation to generation. So we are trying to confront the Igbo problem, the Igbo challenge, in the context of Nigeria from the lens that have worked in the past. No, we've moved on. There is a change. That change is that Nigeria have changed from a structure of regions into this quasi-federalism. But actually, what they federalized is the resources that were in the former Southeast region, the defunct Southeast region. It's like they looked at, every other region is intact. The North is not divided. The West is not divided. The Midwest is not divided. It was the Southeast that was divided. And the unfortunate thing about the state creation and the division was that it was done along ethnic lines, okay, which is also, some sort of, it reinforces that regional thing, where you come from, ancestral origin. Okay, so Nigeria is not quite there yet, where people are willing to relinquish their ethnic privileges or their regional privileges. No, the West and the North want to retain their privileges from colonial regional system and structures. So that, for example, the Oba will tell you, don't vote for this person in Lagos or I'll throw you into the waters. Or, all those kinds of, it's because they believe it, and that's what it is. It's their region, right? But they can only be their region because it's not a federal state. Okay? So, my point is also that it is the Southeast that was divided, and it is the resources in the former Southeast that was federalized, nationalized. And by nationalizing it, people are saying, as far as it's one Nigeria so long as all the crude resources are nationalized. But when it comes to voting and equal citizenship, no, you're not your Igbo. Go back to your region. So Nigeria is yet to federalize citizenship. You have to equalize citizenship. When you equalize citizenship, then you can actually make equal representation real. So representation is not longer by ancestral origin. So people can become citizens of Nigeria based on factors like place of birth, marriage, place of residence, where you live and pay your tax. You are a citizen there, and you are eligible as a citizen to vote and be voted for any position, including the presidency, including local government chairman, local government council representative, or state house. You see what I'm talking about? So Nigeria, let's face it, we have to either, you really can be up and down at the same time. You can only be up or down. But when you want to be up and down, you're trying to retain regional privileges. You want to keep all the gold and uranium and all the other natural resources in the north intact. Don't spread them. You want to keep all the privileges from the waters of Lagos, the seas, right? And all the port benefits. You want to keep it to belong to the West. But you want the crude to continue to serve everybody. That's not a bad idea. The problem is live and let live. Let Igbos be citizens of anywhere they choose to live in Nigeria, and let's equalize citizenship, or let's return to regional system. That's what I mean by you can be up and down. But in the current structure where the Igbo war trauma, the trauma triggers of the Igbos are used to manipulate them into submission, into subjugation. There is a fear-based, sort of poke the fear elements and the fear triggers. All the Igbos, they roar, they get angry, and then they reverse back to the same trauma response patterns of people who lost war. So Igbos, and especially post-war Igbos, educate, people who think, not even people who want to think, should sit down and think about how to articulate the proposal that actually in that war, there was a vanquished, and that the vanquished is still vanquished today. Otherwise, explain to me why people who come out from a war of 3 years, a war of hunger, starvation, losses, people who lost millions of people, family members, still are considered educationally advantaged. How? People like me who were born just after the war, we had to live with that reality, and I have to score in JAM, for example, to get admission into university. My score has to be higher than that of non-Igbos. You see, they raise the bar for Igbos. That's oppression. That doesn't even make any sense in a federal system where everybody is supposed to be equal citizens. So let's articulate this case. Now, applying the snake paradigm, I'm saying, one example of doing that is ask for the opposite. The snake is unpredictable. Be unpredictable to survive. Be unpredictable we can develop this theory, and I can teach you exactly the constructs that make it up and possible applications across all sectors, across education, across agriculture, across even politics, across the sectors of life. I'm not angry. I just understand that it is time for Igbos to understand that we are the spoil of war. Period. That's exactly what, in the eye of these other alliances, that we are the people, the spoil of war. So we can't even talk to the outside world because everything is domesticated under sovereignty clause, right? But that sovereignty clause is not closed. The reason is because we can make the argument still that we were people who lost the war, and we are suffering because we lost the war. No victor, no vanquish was the most fraudulent conclusion that I have seen. If it would have been a great idea if they meant to foster reintegration and rehabilitation. No, they did not. Igbos were not rehabilitated. Okay, so the brain of an average Igbo is still on survival. The brain of an average Igbo. That's why anything they think about survival, I don't want to lose my life, I don't want to lose my property. Okay, I'd rather adjust to the new suffering, adjust to the new level of marginalization, adjust to the exclusion. Okay, that's exactly what I mean by trauma response patterns. The survival mode. You can't be on survival mode and maximize your fullest potentials. That's why we have many, many young Igbos externalizing, going outside of the country, seeking survival by all means. Many ending up in jails, many doing well as well. But we need to really sit down and articulate a structure of response. I recommend the snake paradigm. The snake paradigm. Be as wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove. That's the scripture, but in fact, it's straight out of the Bible. If you're a sheep surrounded by wolves, you don't need the wisdom of lion. What you need is potentially the wisdom of snakes. apply this. Agwagi ikwe. Even if you ikwe, if you don't ikwe, at least kwete to study it. Don't dismiss an idea that you have not thoroughly investigated. There might be an element that maybe you don't have to take wholesale all the theory. There might be elements that you can take and read. Maka okwe ngwangwa enwe ihe ụta. Ọjụ ngwangwa enwezikwa ihe ụta. Ya gazie.